Hello everyone, Mark Gurney with Ruger. Thanks for joining us. In a previous video we talked about the 4 rules, and you should also know the rules for the range in which you are shooting. But in this video we're going to try to keep you away from making some of the common mistakes we see at the range. So rule number 2 is never point the muzzle at anything you don't wish to destroy. But the way that rule gets applied at the range is keep the muzzle pointed down range at all times. So one of the common mistakes we see is folks, when they're loading their magazine, they'll often turn the gun, if they're right-handed, to the left and even up, so as they insert their magazine. Now that's not necessarily bad, but it would be better to keep the gun pointed downrange. And if you need to angle the gun, you're welcome to do so. It's still pointed downrange to load your magazine. And if you still struggle, unless you need to turn, well, you can always turn your body and load the magazine. And that's whether you're seated at the bench or standing. Just turn your body so the muzzle stays pointed downrange, and then you can return to shooting as you need to. One of the other mistakes we see is similar to that, is when people manipulate the slide. They often struggle with it, perhaps when they're clearing a malfunction, and they'll end up turning it. I think it's because they're trying to see the slide stop, but they end up turning it, and in some cases even rolling it over. So now they're progressed all the way to pointing the gun directly to their side, and even worse cases, pointing it to themselves or even to the rear. So once again, keep the muzzle pointed downrange, manipulate what you have to do, and if you have to turn your body to keep it pointed downrange, you're certainly welcome to do so. Another thing we often see is, and I'm not sure why, but it happens, is people load up and they tend to point the gun skyward and bring it down onto target. There's no real need to do that. Just load up, keep the gun horizontal, pointed downrange, and just push it straight out. So this is made even worse if you remember rule 3, leave your finger off the trigger until your sights are aligned with the target. If the trigger finger starts coming in early, now you have an opportunity to shoot early or unintended high. So keep the muzzle pointed downrange, finger off the trigger to your sights on target, and just push it straight towards the target. Another things we often see, and I see this more with standing rather than seated, but it's people who are shooting, and after they shoot a couple of shots, the gun comes down and they're very intent on their target. And if they're standing, it often just droops right down, pointing at the ground right next to their feet, or maybe even at their foot, while they're trying to figure out what's going on with their target. So you really shouldn't be doing that. You need to keep the gun pointed downrange, and if you need to rest, just pull the gun in straight in. You can hold it against your torso and look at the target all you want while maintaining the gun being pointed downrange. So while we're on the subject of taking a rest, your magazine holds X number of rounds, 10, 15, 17, whatever. You don't have to load it completely up. In fact, if you're just starting up, nothing wrong with loading one round and firing it. And you can learn a lot from that one round at a time. But even if you do have it fully loaded, you don't have to fire all the rounds in that string. If you're shooting and you need to take a break for a moment, just bring the gun in and get a rest. If you're not used to shooting, your arms are getting tired, you're starting to shake a little bit, just take a break. You're in no hurry to unload that magazine. And one final thought, while the subject of drawing and firing from a holster should best be approached with professional instruction, we often see folks pointing the muzzle at their own body while they are trying to holster their gun. So the advice we want to give you is make sure your covering garment is completely out of the way so it doesn't snag the trigger, and make sure the gun goes straight down into the holster and the gun doesn't angle in towards your body. So there's a lot to learn with learning to shoot safely. We hope this video helps. So thanks for joining us, and stay safe.